Welcome to another edition of the Around the NFL broadcast presented by the United States Marine Corps. My name is Dan Hansis, joined by Greg Rosenthal. Just a two-hander here, as they call it in the industry. Greg, how you feeling?
I mean, that's more airtime for us. This has always been the end game, right? Just more talking.
Yeah, the bad news for you, I need one more person to be eliminated. Then, truly, I will have this achieve success. Great show coming up today. Just kidding. I like doing the show with you, Greg. We are here.
And Mark will be back. We hope that Mark is back next week, of course, and I think he will be.
Yes, we miss Mark very much. 2021 predictions. We're going to give some of those coming up. And also from our podcast this week, which teams do we think are better now than they were before training camp started? Or at least that's how we perceive them now. So a little look back on the summer that was. But before any of that, Mr. Rosenthal, let's do some news. And yes, it was the shocker of the week. Cam Newton cut loose by the New England Patriots after only one season. They brought him back in another one-year deal in the offseason. But after Mac Jones progressed to a level that impressed the entire team, including Bill Belichick, Cam goes away. Now, we're going to talk about the Patriots situation with Mike Giardi a little bit later. But let's focus on Cam, because as of taping right now, he is not attached to a team. Where are some landing spots you see for the former MVP?
I mean, the best one's not going to happen. Apparently, the Cowboys indicated they're not interested. Oh, they got Cooper Rush. They're all set. I was really shocked because he was at the bottom of the depth chart. I know they picked up Will Grier from Carolina. That one makes too much sense to me, and I'm not totally closing the door. Once you get past week one, the contracts aren't guaranteed. But another couple teams that stand out to me, the Seattle Seahawks. You have Geno Smith there. You know I'm a fan of Geno Smith, but I think Cam Newton would be an upgrade. I think he could keep you in playoff contention if Russell Wilson ever missed games. I know that hasn't happened. And how about the Los Angeles Chargers? I was there watching the Chase Daniel quarterback battle going on in LA. It wasn't great. It was what you expect out of Chase Daniel. These are playoff type teams that you would think if Cam Newton is on their roster, he's going to upgrade that backup spot, no doubt.
And some people, Greg, might not be aware that we have the Around the NFL podcast 3 times a week, and that your Geno Smith bit, which is a bit, you love him as a quarterback, but you don't actually believe that in 2021, right? They can upgrade big
I think
time.
He's an underrated player. I think his time in New York, those 4 games in, 2017, where he saved Rex Ryan's job, they were underrated. I think he's an okay backup, but he's not Cam Newton. I think Cam Newton was playing well this preseason.
I'll say the obvious one, the Houston Texans. Come on. I mean, unless, and teams don't like to acknowledge such things, the Houston Texans don't want to win games this year. Cam would be a big upgrade over Tyrod Taylor. We know Deshaun Watson's situation, and actually we don't know Deshaun Watson's situation, but it doesn't really feel like we're going to see him on the field anytime soon. So you throw the Texans out there as a team if you want to get better at quarterback, which is probably something most teams want to do. How about the Washington football team? We know Fitzmagic is there. He's locked and loaded as a starter. Tyler Heineke did some good things in the playoffs last year, but Ron Rivera was Cam Newton's head coach during his Carolina heyday. So you always got to connect those dots when you look at a player's past history.
Yeah, and they've indicated they're not interested. I'm just so surprised at the teams that are looking to be good running teams that don't want Cam Newton. The New York Giants are another one with Jason Garrett. You got Mike Glennon as your backup. And as Charlie Casserly always said, the most important person on your roster is your quarterback. The second most important person on your roster is your backup quarterback. So let's get Cam Newton a job, shall we?
You don't have many bits, Greg, like true bits, but that one you always come back to, and I always enjoy it. Charlie Casserly, a legend forever. What about the Jets, by the way, before we move on? How about with the Jets in the division? Cam Newton knows that playbook. The Jets who's the Jets backup quarterback? Like, does anyone know who the Jets backup quarterback is behind Zach Wilson, who's never thrown an NFL pass? That would make sense, but does Cam want to be in that situation after he just got bounced out of the same situation with a high first-round pick? Probably not. Cam Newton doesn't have a job, Greg. That's crazy.
Mr. White, it's no fun. Come on. Let's get Cam back in the league.
Also no fun what's going on down in New Orleans and the region. Hurricane Ida doing major damage. A real bummer down there, and our thoughts are with everyone that's been affected by that storm. And the storm has caused, of course, the Saints to have to change their plans about how they're going to play to start the season. They're being moved to the Jacksonville Jaguars Stadium in the aftermath of Ida, so they will play against the Packers week 1, what would have been a home game at the Superdome with 80,000 fans screaming. Now you're in Jacksonville. Obviously a tough situation from a football perspective from the Saints, but also a real life situation that obviously is very serious.
I don't think there's a coach in the league you'd rather have, though, in this situation than Sean Payton. He almost looks for something bigger than the team for them to rally around, and this is certainly it, playing for their region. He's such a leader that, they're looking into which flights are going to be more expensive so Packers fans don't come down. I got news for you. It's like when the Packers play the Jaguars, they fill that stadium with Packers fans. They travel. There's going to be a lot of Packers fans. There's going to be a lot of Saints fans. It's another obstacle for this Saints team that has a lot of roster questions too going into week 1. The Packers already, I think, just talent-wise, could overwhelm the Saints, and now they don't have to play in the Superdome. That's definitely an edge for them.
Right, and sadly, and it's 16 years to the day, Hurricane Katrina is when Ida made landfall. Sean Payton has experience how to handle a situation like this. So the Saints, unfortunately, this is something that is part of the experience living down there. And people affected by severe weather and other disasters need help now to support those impacted by Hurricane Ida. Text IDA 90999 to give $10 to the American Red Cross Hurricane Ida Relief, or go to redcross.org/donate. All right, let's move on here. It's time for Health Check presented by The Truth About Weight. We had the roster cutdowns on Tuesday, Greg, and a big part of that day also is making designations for certain players that are injured. The PUP list, which takes them out of action for 6 weeks. Let's start with Michael Thomas of the Saints. This was not a surprise. There's a lot of consternation down there with the Saints from a football side of things because of the timing of Thomas's ankle surgery. Remember, he hurt the ankle way back in week 1 of the 2020 season, gets surgery in June, and now out of the picture until October at the very least. This is not a good situation, Greg.
It's wild. I was really expecting the Saints to be one of those teams that picked up a veteran after waiver cuts. They haven't touched it. They're just like, no, we're rolling with Marquez Callaway as our number 1. Traquan Smith, who hasn't practiced in about a month but is back now, is 1 or 2. Our guy, Little Jordan Humphrey, who joined the Around the NFL podcast just a few weeks ago, he made the team. He's number 3. So Jameis Winston is facing a tough situation. 2 new tight ends, too, where they're counting on a converted wide receiver in Juwan Johnson. It's like they are really asking for these young guys to step up. It is a lot to ask.
And by the way, moratorium, no one asked him about it again because we asked him about it. He doesn't want to be large 6'4" Jordan Humphrey. He's little Jordan Humphrey, and that's it. In other PUP news, David Bakhtiari. the great left tackle for the Packers, the blindside protector, the MVP, Aaron Rodgers. He had hoped to be ready for week 1 after he tore his ACL in late December. That is not meant to be. He is on the PUP list to start the season. Greg, the Packers historically do a good job grooming new lineman talent to fill the vibe, but this is a tough situation for them.
Yeah, I trust Elgton Jenkins, who's going to take over at left tackle just because he's shown he can play any position really well, whether it's guard or center. He should be fine. But you know how many starters they have returning to the same position on their offensive line this year? 1, maybe. It's Lucas Patrick. Even at right tackle, Rick Wagner is out. So if the Saints fans are looking for some juice, some good news going into this game, how about Cameron Jordan with a nice little mismatch on the right side, or Marcus Davenport, my guy? They call him 2 firsts. Talking about, took him 2 first-round picks. He had a really great camp. So I think their pass rush should get after Aaron Rodgers in week 1.
One of the experts in NFL media at offensive line play and studying that phase of the game is Nick Shook, our buddy who's on the show this week. And he made the great point that, yes, even if the offensive line for the Green Bay Packers isn't so hot, Aaron Rodgers is special to the level that he makes an offensive line better. So Rodgers is there to help things. If you're a Packers fan and you want to feel a little better about the situation, see, that's both sides, Greg. You give 2 sides. And that was Health Check, presented by The Truth About Weight. All right. Just getting started here on the broadcast. I'm Chris Berman. 2021 season predictions, including MVP, DPOY, and our Super Bowl picks. All right.
That's one of your many bits there, Berman.
Back on ATN, presented by the United States Marine Corps, and a big week of podcasts for us leading up to the 2021 season, including our 2021 season predictions with Patrick Claybon, our buddy. Scan that QR code with your cell phone for the full pod. Here's a taste of our discussion.
We'll start with the individual awards, beginning with the most important, most valuable player MVP award.
I'm a basic. I got Mahomes.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, it's super chalky. Mahomes for me.
I decided not to get cute with it. I get cute with the other ones, but not with Mahomes.
Yeah, this one, it ain't a brave feeling, but I just got a feeling this is going to be one of those seasons for the ages with Patrick Mahomes. Offensive player. Oh, sorry. No. See, I'm so used to doing it myself. Justin, set the table.
How about offensive player of the year?
Well, I'll get this out of the way. I'm a conscientious objector every year to this award. I don't believe in it. It's not a bit. I just think even contributing to this answer. So I always just put nah. I always just put no. I used to say, hey, can you print this sentence about how dumb an award this is? But they wouldn't. They didn't. They wouldn't print it. So I just sit this one out.
Okay. Patrick?
Calvin Ridley. I think he has an opportunity to get a lot of catches. And perhaps, as Greg's previous objections to the award, the award itself and the way that it plays out. I'll go
maybe
wide receiver.
Maybe it's a spot I could just give some pop to a player I like. Yeah, it's a smart way to do it, Claiborne.
well, all of us. I have Kyler Murray. I think he's going to be the first guy to ever go 4,000, 1,000. And that type of statistical production, even though his team's going to go 8 and 9, it's going to be something that lifts him to that award. And Justin, just going to quiz you off the top of your head. Who was the offensive player of the year in 2020?
That was Derrick Henry, 2,000 yards.
Whoa!
See, but Greg, look at it that way.
Would have you known the answer, Claiborne? Because I wouldn't have. That's how dumb an award was.
I was going to guess Josh Allen. But to see, doesn't that in a way justify it, Greg? Because it's a quarterback award MVP. Everybody knows it. Derrick Henry runs for 2,000 yards and puts that team on his back for like.
So just make that the award, non-quarterback award, because.
But it is
sometimes the same guy wins MVP and Offensive Player of the Year pretty often. So I don't understand why it wouldn't just be Mahomes. Make it the non-quarterback award. That's what they should do.
About half of the last 10 years MVPs also won Offensive Player of the Year, but only about half.
Well, that seems so silly. Yeah.
It's like when there's a good running back to vote for, then that guy wins it, but otherwise.
Or Michael Thomas when he set the reception record.
Yeah, that's good.
But it's like when a player like a receiver, quarterback, or non-quarterback sets a record of some kind or becomes the 8th player to run for 2,000 yards, then they're like, okay, a different person than the MVP can have it.
Shouldn't the Offensive Player of the Year just be the guy who came second in the MVP vote?
Right, that's sort of where I'm coming from.
I know. I mean, I know what you're saying, Greg. I'm not against it. I get it.
It's a house of cards that we need, award realignment. Like we'd have to change everything to fix the problems with the individual awards.
Yeah, just say non-QB. I think that solves it.
Well, why couldn't Aaron Donald win MVP one year and then a QB win Offensive Player of the Year?
Exactly.
Hey, listen to you.
Speaking of Aaron Donald, how about Defensive Player of the Year?
Erica's in trouble, man.
It's going to be Myles Garrett for me. I think we get the 20 sack season that we've been waiting for from Myles this year, especially maybe if we get a healthy Clowney season that the Browns score some points, other teams are passing. I say Myles Garrett.
I like that one a lot. I thought about that, but I'm going to go Chris Jones, which I threw out there as like, what's the long ticket if he's even on the board. Some listener, I think. And we're not encouraging this. This is against the policy. We are not encouraging anyone to do anything. But some listener took my Chris Jones Defensive Player of the Year thought and acted upon it. So I think that's a real long shot. I don't think it's it's a real long shot. But I'm going to go Chris Jones.
Myles Garrett was my pick. And then when I was filling out the document, I blanked on it, put Aaron Donald. And I could send a follow-up email to Gennaro, but I won't. I'll just keep it. And Aaron Donald, just to show him the love as an all-time great, he'll get my vote.
What about your Super Bowl matchups and winners?
All right. Did you guys write your blurb? Want to just read our blurbs?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, read away.
I got Chiefs over Rams. The pairing of Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford proved to be a smashing success, but even an excellent Rams defense could not figure out Patrick Mahomes, who followed up his second NFL MVP award with another Super Bowl MVP, period.
Well, if you think it doesn't have enough juice, then you can still change it. You should go. I always go for a hyper-specific prediction there, just in case one year you get it right. So I went 49ers over Ravens. I had the Chiefs initially, but then I was like, well, if I'm going to pick the 49ers to win, you might as well just go balls out here. And my sentence is, Trey Lance becomes the first rookie quarterback to lead his team to a Super Bowl title after Fred Warner tips Lamar Jackson's potential game-winning throw at the buzzer.
Hyper specificity. I don't have that.
Wow. Okay. The Trey Lance is going to win the Super Bowl this year.
Trey Lance wins the Super Bowl, and Warner. Whoa. It's like Lamar has him open, makes a great throw, but Fred Warner diving immortal play that you remember.
You have a different outlook on the whole exercise. It's kind of like what you want to happen in your dreams of the best NFL season.
This time I went with that, yeah. Because when
I went with more like trying to just get it right.
And I've kept trying to do that, and I always get it so wrong. So that's why it's like, well, I'll just pick what I want.
All right, Patrick, what do you got?
Storybook ending in Hollywood. Aaron Rodgers walks off the field a champion as Patrick Mahomes loses his second consecutive Super Bowl.
Ooh-wee.
I like that.
For that.
I thought hard about going Packers all the way too. I feel like they're not getting a lot of love for a team that
what's the championship game 2 years in a row.
Absolutely has a chance to win the Super Bowl and might have the best quarterback. Absolutely.
Devil's advocate, and maybe their defense is better this year, but if they weren't able to get over the hump with Aaron Rodgers having an all-time season at 38 or whatever, I don't know. If it didn't happen last year, it's not going to happen. I don't know.
Ball's not round.
Hey,
weird stuff
absolutely
happens.
Right. And
no,
you know
Mike
what?
Patten, maybe that helps. Who knows?
That got me really excited because it is just a reminder, even though we've been doing this forever and we've all been NFL fans since we were wee boys. The beginning of the season is so fun. It's just like it can go in so many different directions. So we get to now see how it all plays out. Up next on the broadcast, yes, lots going on in Patriots land. We break down what's going on with the 2021 Pats with Mike Giardi, who covers the team as well as anyone. Up next on the broadcast. ATN rolls on just like the Pats will do without Cam Newton. Earlier this week, New England named Mac Jones the starting quarterback and sent Cam packing. So why did the Pats choose the rookie from Alabama? Bill Belichick, enlighten us.
He's had a high level of production, but I feel like he's been able to show an ability to do things the way we want them done at a productive level. So he's young. I'm sure he'll continue to learn and grow. We'll see where that goes, but that's why we drafted him, and I think he's come in and performed at a level that supports that.
Sometimes that monotone just gets me.
That was actually like Bill Belichick really excited. That was him being like, we got one right. We got the quarterback right. That was him.
All right. So much going on with the Pats right now. And that's why we welcome in Mike Giardi, who covers all things Patriots for NFL Network. Mike, welcome back to the broadcast.
Thank you for having me, guys.
All right, so take us through it. Like, what is the vibe right now? Mac over Cam. How surprised were you, and how did the locker room react to the big decision?
Well, I'll start with the latter. The locker room, I think, was pretty psyched, not because Cam is gone. I think he developed some great relationships there, but just they saw what happened over the course of the summer. They saw this kid take control and be the better quarterback for the better part of training camp. And on some days, it was just a little. On other days, it was a lot. But then that final week with Cam being out because of the COVID protocol breach and the joint practices with the Giants, and on that Wednesday, the first day of joint practices, he absolutely carved the Giants up. And look, I've been around the team for 20 some odd years now. I saw joint practices with other teams. I saw Tom Brady in certain situations in joint practices absolutely put on a clinic where the other team was like, oh my God. And the Giants were doing the same thing. Not saying Mac Jones is Tom Brady, just saying it had that similar feel to it. Like this guy was just on top of his game and there was absolutely nothing they could do to stop him.
I mean, you're not saying he's Tom Brady, but you're not saying he's Tom Brady. No, I'm a Giardi head. I watched a lot of Giardi broadcasts throughout the preseason, and you were kind of pushing this could happen the whole time. You were getting some pushback. What did you see? Just because this is the time of year you can actually watch them practice. Once the season starts, it's not going to happen like that. But you got to see all of Mac Jones's snaps. Like, what did he do specifically to impress you throughout that process?
Well, Greg, first just start with his overall knowledge of the offense. Like, I think he came in the spring in a better place than Cam Newton was at any point last year. And then he just built off of that. And that really doesn't come as any surprise when you talk to the people who covered Mac at Alabama and some of the people that were there at Alabama. The story, obviously, that's made the rounds that he was teaching Bill O'Brien, like Bama's new offensive coordinator, former Texans head coach. He was teaching him the offense this offseason. He just has this grasp of how things are done here, and I think this place suits him, and the way Josh McDaniels wants this offense to run suits him. So, you know, one player told me, you know, months ago, like he sees the game the way Josh wants it seen, and I think that was a high compliment. So you get that, the knowledge part, but then the accuracy. I think the decision making, knowing exactly where to go with the football and when to do it most of the time. Obviously, he's still a rookie. There's still going to be learning experience. There's still going to be times when the defense is better than the offense. But in general, I think he just sort of has the right idea most of the time. And Kendrick Bourne, a couple of days ago, just told us, you know, hey, to him, it clicked in the 2 minute. He said the 2 minute, you have to make fast decisions. You have to have a full grasp of what you're doing. And for Mac Jones, in those fast moments, it slowed down. He saw it clearly. And that, to me, again, is sort of a real good picture of what Mac Jones brought to the table this summer.
And this is take two for Belichick in a lot of ways, because the whole Jimmy Garoppolo saga from a few years back, he had his successor set up and he got out the door. And it seems like Mac Jones is a do-over for Bill to set up post-Brady life. We'll see how it goes. Now, another key figure on this Patriots team, Mike, is Stephon Gilmore, former Defensive Player of the Year, star cornerback. He's had a quad issue he's been dealing with for a year now, and now he's on the PUP list. But I must ask, how much do you think the quad injury is tied to the contract situation? It's been pretty tense on both sides there.
Yeah, I think they're very tied together. Look, I've talked to that side, to people around Steph for months now, and the feeling was several months ago that he was ready he'd already been doing football activities and that he was ready for camp and would be ready for the start of the season. Now, I have asked around and have gotten no confirmation that there was a setback. No one said there was a setback. So to me, I think this really does come down to money. And we've seen it before. The guys that beat Belichick at this game are the ones that are willing to sit and are willing to say, look, I don't care. You're not going to bully me. Richard Seymour, Deion Branch, there are guys of that nature, Logan Menkins, who ended up getting their deals or getting traded to where they could get their deal. And I think Stephon Gilmore is looking at this as a business and saying, I've given you a ton. I want more. I'm worth more. And quite honestly, I feel like if the Patriots don't go there and they end up moving on from Stephon Gilmore this year, then they left themselves a little short at cornerback, because I think that's one of the issues that they've had this summer. One of the places that I've sort of circled and said they don't have enough there. They would if it was Stephon Gilmore and J.C. Jackson, but if it's J.C. Jackson and Jalen Mills, not sure.
Right. I mean, their number 2 cornerback is Jalen Mills. They just picked up a guy from the Ravens, Sean Wade, who might be their third outside corner. Gilmore is going to play this year, you would assume. But if he's not getting that money, he's going to have a little less risk, not play at less than 100%, and you're not going to see him till midseason. I think that's a problem for them, but they do have a lot of good young players on this defense. Josh Uche had a good training camp. I know Dan's hating this segment. It's just a bunch of gassing up of the Patriots. But do you get the feeling like this
cute
team
how excited
thinks,
you are, Greg? I
mean, do you think this team thinks they're good? They're giving up this vibe, this like kind of confident Patriots vibe that they think they're good. Am I right about that?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about it. And you kind of saw it grow over the course of the summer. I think in the spring, there was a lot of questions. Well, we spent all this money in free agency, and while it's nice to have established NFL players and some guys that are considered really good at their positions, this is not how we've done business for 20 years. This is not how our owner wanted to do business. This is not how Bill did business. And we heard about it a ton, well, the teams that spend in April aren't the team in March and April. They're not the teams that win in December, January, and February. But this year, they're the team that's doing it. So some of the guys that were left over, the Devin McCourtys, the Matthew Slaters, were like, wait and see, because we've never done this before, and we've seen other people do it, and it failed. But I think now that some of these guys are here, Matthew Judon being, I think, a prime example of someone who basically said, well, they chose me because of the money. And you're like, I don't know if that's the best attitude to take when you're coming in because of the way Bill coaches. But then he got here, and all of a sudden, it just fits. He's like a perfect fit, at least he has been to this point.
Finally, let's add on a sad note, unfortunately, Mike. David Patten, 3-time Super Bowl champion with the Patriots, passed away, motorcycle accident. Do you have any thoughts to share about David? As you said, you go way back. I'm sure you had a connection with him.
Yeah, David was just an incredibly nice man. Always had a positive word, and he sort of a different dude in the sense that he was very faith forward. And I think there were some players in that locker room in the early 2000s that didn't see life that way, and they would sort of poke fun at him, and he never let it deter him. He would just smile, and he would say, they don't know what I know, and they don't feel what I feel. And his story is just a great one, too, because he used to keep himself in shape as he was trying to find a job and going through the Arena Football League by carrying 75-pound bags of coffee beans for minimum wage. But he said, hey, in the heat of South Carolina, this is how I can stay in shape. This is how I can reach my goal. And he did, and he was a pretty important player. 3 Super Bowl rings for that team says a lot about the guy's willpower. And he devoted his life to his ministry afterwards. And it's a sad day because he was just a really genuinely good human being.
They don't win that Super Bowl in 2001 without him. It has over 100 yards in the snow game, the final game in Foxborough. Catches a touchdown pass from Drew Bledsoe in the AFC Championship, and then catches one of the all-time great Patriots touchdowns here at the end of the second quarter of the first Super Bowl against the Rams. They don't win that game without that touchdown. David Patten was as clutch as it gets.
R.I.P. David Patten. All right, Mike, thank you very much for joining us, and best of luck to you this season.
Thank you, guys.
Coming up next on the broadcast, which teams got better in the preseason and training camp? We talk about that next on the broadcast. ATN presented by United States Marine Corps is back. And on the pod this week, we talked with the guiding conscience of NFL media, Steve Weish, about teams who got better and teams who got worse during training camp. Scan that QR code with your phone to listen. Here's a preview of what you'll be hearing. Let's start in a positive way here, Greg. Do you want to share with us a team that you feel better about right now compared to, say, July 20th?
This sounds strange, but it's the Buccaneers popped up. Joe Tryon, or as the kids call him now, Joe Tryon Shoyanka, changed his name. So everyone get on that. There's a dash in there, okay. A hyphen. It's Tryon Shoyanka. Like, we didn't know anything about this kid, and he made as big an impact, I think, as any defensive rookie in the entire NFL. And sometimes that's what the preseason's all about, is just you see a player and you know, like, oh, this guy is not only going to be a quality third edge rusher alongside Shaq and JPB. I mean, he might be better than them. He might be as good as them right now. They were a little quiet in the regular season last year and then really turned it on down the stretch. I just mean he looks like he's going to show up and play, and they made it through a healthy month. I just sort of liked what I saw and heard out of their skill position group. I think Antonio Brown is healthier and totally ready for this season. I think Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, who had some injury troubles last year, Godwin had the drops in the playoffs too. Like, if you watch them in their little preseason action and heard all the practice words, like, they are ready to roll. Sometimes the Super Bowl champion starts out like just a couple feet ahead of the rest of the league. And there was no reason to doubt the Bucs going into camp, but I actually feel even better about them now after everything I've seen. Like, everyone's healthy. I think they're ready to roll. I think they're motivated. And I actually think September is the wrong time to play the Bucs. You might have a better chance against them in November and December than you do to start the season. They're going to start out, I think, ahead of the rest of the league.
Yeah, as if Todd Bowles need another toy to play with. I mean, this guy now he is. I mean, he's going to be drawing stuff up, you know, like who knows what. But guys, I like the Tennessee Titans. I mean, this is a team we don't talk about very much, you know. But I got to saw him play in a preseason game. They've got excellent depth. The backup quarterback, I believe his name is Woodside, and I think he's like an AAF guy or whatever. He supplanted Matt Barkley as the backup to Ryan Tannehill. Nice player. They've got depth all over the place in the offensive backfield. But then I look at the rest of the division, and that looks like pretty much a catastrophe, right? And, you know, I think we all really liked the Colts coming in, but now they've got injuries, right? You've got the whole vaccinated, unvaccinated situation with Carson Wentz. You know,
finally returned to practice Thursday. He's back from the COVID list Thursday.
He's back. He's back at practice, but I mean, he's missing time. You know, he had the foot injury, and he's missing time because of that issue, because of the close contact issues, right? So we'll see. I think they're going to get it back because their defense is really good. I'm a big Darius Leonard fan. But then, you know, you've got the Texans who are like 5 years away from being 5 years away. So that's a decade, right, before I'm giving them an opportunity. And then the Jags, you know, like, look, I know everyone's getting all over Urban Meyer, too, for sitting here saying they have vaccination status played into our cuts and now opening up an investigation. He's just saying out loud what the other 31 aren't. You better believe it. So, but look, besides that, they're still deficient in a lot of ways. We'll see what Trevor Lawrence can come up with. But, you know, if he doesn't get killed, you know, I think this could be a Joey Burrow situation. Hopefully he stays healthy, but in terms of protecting him, that's an issue. So I think the Titans, I mean, I think they've got a pretty good roster. I was worried about some of the losses they suffered coming into training camp. I think they're rock solid, and division-wise, I think they are clearly the front runners right now.
But are you into, of course, they lost Arthur Smith here. Are you into the Titans as having a good summer by default just because you didn't like any of the other summers in the division, or do you actually think that there's more, this team can be better than what they were last year?
You did one of their games, right, Steve, in the preseason?
I did, and they're going to be more diverse offensively. You know, some of my conversation with Arthur Smith, he's like, it was nobody's plan to have Derrick Henry have 400 touches last year, right? But they had some injury issues at the backup spot. So now they're going to work some things differently offensively. You're going to see more, and not necessarily with Derrick Henry, but you're going to see more passes out of the backfield. You're going to see that offense change a little bit with Jonnu Smith gone, right? So they're going to do some things offensively. They got Julio Jones there. So I think they're going to be a little bit more creative, a little bit tougher to defend, and they're going to open up the field a little bit more for Derrick Henry when he does get his touches, which, again, I don't think are going to be more frequent or as frequent as they have been in the past years.
I had them written down too. I did. They were one of my teams, not just because of the division, although that's a big part of it. That's the worst division in football. But I think they had a lot of positive things. First of all, Julio Jones is back at practice. I was a little worried about that. He just doesn't practice anymore. Now he's ready to roll. I think they found something in their rookie Elijah Molden, rather. He's going to be their slot corner. Like, their defense really turned over, and that can go well or that can go not so well. But I like the secondary right now. Jackrabbit, he officially changed his name to Jackrabbit, by the way. We haven't announced that on the podcast.
I love that.
You have to call him Jackrabbit.
Whoa.
I think Wes was ahead of the curve on that. Would always just call him Jackrabbit no matter what. Christian Fulton's starting there. Like Bud Dupree had a healthy preseason. Sometimes it's just about like who gets through healthy and who like that you were a little worried about. Like when you changed everything, were they going to have an okay month? I just liked everything I heard from them. Taylor Lewan's back from his ACL. I'm with you, Steve. I think that feels like a pretty safe playoff team when I wasn't necessarily thinking that back in July.
And I also, I'm of two minds on this because we just did our predictions podcast, and I threw out the Colts there as the division winner because I do feel there is a ceiling here that is a little higher than they're getting credit for if things click health-wise. But I had them ultimately on the team I feel less about after the summer because of the injuries you mentioned and also that schedule which we've hit on. But the fact that they're going to be they've had a disjointed summer with many of their key players, and we also should mention T.Y. Hilton, who's out indefinitely with this back neck thing. That schedule, the first half of the season, home Seattle, Rams, at Tennessee, at Miami, at Baltimore, a little pick-me-up, home Houston, and then at San Francisco, home Tennessee. The team that they could have used a weak schedule in the front end to get things under control after kind of a hectic summer, but they got the opposite. And you had mentioned, Greg, the health being important, and it should be obvious, but it doesn't always work out that way. And I'm going to talk about the Chargers, a team I feel better about, because the Chargers, and this should not surprise anyone that follows the team in the sport, ranked 4th in weighted approximate value lost to injuries last season, according to the injury tracking site Man Games Lost. And just the fact that they've gotten out of this summer with all their stars intact, and they have such a fun, varied roster of plus players: Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Derwin James, Joey Bosa, all should be locked and loaded for Week 1 against Washington, which, by the way, Chargers-Washington, one of my sneaky favorite Week 1 matchups. That sounds fun.
That is good.
How about that?
It is good.
And I want to give credit. It's kind of tricky. How do you, coming out of a summer with good health and being locked and loaded for the season, Brandon Staley, the new coach, you give him some credit? How about Anthony Lamondo, the new director of sports performance? They added a whole bunch of
Lamondo getting
a little Lamondo pop.
They had to.
They added a whole new protocol in terms of how they handle practice, stretching, rest before and after, how they handle the preseason. And, some of this obviously goes back to luck. But I appreciate, and I'm sure Chargers fans appreciate, that this new coaching staff didn't just say, well, the football gods got the Chargers again last year, and they actually made an effort here. And I just think the spoon of good health, which could blow up in the second quarter by Week 1, of course. We know that. But they're locked and loaded with arguably the most exciting young roster in football. And
their offensive line additions.
Yeah.
I mean, having that offensive line, that was an issue, and they look strong up front right now. That's a dangerous football team.
Steve Weiss, the guiding conscience of NFL media. All right, up next, making sense of some of the roster cuts, including the Cowboys adding a notable QB, but not the guy that maybe you thought they would. Up next. Oh, yeah, it's time for Fighting Spirit, presented by the United States Marine Corps. Final cutdowns were Tuesday, as every team had to get down to a 53-man roster. Let's talk about what was notable, what jumped out to you about some comings and goings, Greg. You get us going.
I don't know about that term, fighting spirit. I feel bad for, these guys looking for a new job here, but John Brown's one of those guys that should get a new job. How is he not on an NFL team right now? The Raiders won an award you don't want to win. I give it out to the GM who gives the most money in the offseason to a player that didn't make the team. $3.25 million for John Brown, and yet they chose Zay Jones over him. This is one of those, we better be right seasons with the Raiders. They better be right about Henry Ruggs. They better be right about their other second-year player, Brian Edwards, who's starting.
I'll see you a John Brown and raise you a Brashad Perryman. How about the Lions? They gave the veteran wide receiver a one-year deal that included $2 million guaranteed, and they cut him loose. He was dealing with some injury issues, a hip issue that Dan Campbell said when he got on the field, he just wasn't doing the things they needed to go with. So now you got a wide receiver group, Geronimo Allison, Tom Kennedy, Victor Bolden, Quinton Cephas, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Khalif Raym. Who? What's happening here? Jared Goff is going to be in a tough spot. Rashad Perryman, by the way, caught on quickly with the Bears.
I like St. Brown, though. I think St. Brown could be a good little pick.
Okay, but you see the problem here.
It's a problem. It's a problem. You know who else has a problem? The Dallas Cowboys. They picked up Will Grier on waivers this week, and it's one of those things that teams like to do. It's where they trust their draft profile that they wrote 3 years ago, and they're not, paying attention to what happened in the league. He couldn't make the team over P.J. Walker. He certainly couldn't be starting over Cam Newton, his old teammate in Carolina, who's a quarterback that's available. So this one didn't make much sense.
I remember, what was the Cowboys? They didn't want Dak Prescott in the draft where they got him. They wanted a quarterback that went to the Denver Broncos. So sometimes Paxton Lynch, thank you. Sometimes that's not the way to go, trusting your draft knowledge. All right, I'll go with the Money Badger. Listen, one of the great nicknames in the sport, and it was such a good nickname, but Michael Badgley, he tried to trademark it himself. Well, bad news. Chargers cut Michael Badgley, the kicker who struggled mightily last season, and they are going with a new option at the position. And you know what? Badgley is maybe going to catch on somewhere else because that's the way these things work. But the Chargers, they needed to make a change. They've had so much issues with special teams. It cost them games last year. Fresh start there for the Chargers.
Don't you think this is the risk of giving yourself nicknames? I mean, you've done it many times over the years. Old New Blue Eyes, is that one of them? Big Daddy Rich, and then the Tugboat, he's here. This is the problem, some of them don't.
Well, you got to back it up. If you got a nickname, you back it up, and I back it up. Rosenthal. By the way, Tristan Vizcaino is the new kicker in Los Angeles.
You do back it up. I'm going to back up my Tyler Huntley love with some stats here. My next cut is Trace McSorley. So that's news, because if Lamar Jackson misses a game this year, we're going to see this backup play. It's Tyler Huntley this year, not McSorley. I know you were getting on me in the break, like, oh, Mac Jones, he's the #1 PFF rookie of the year. Hey, you know who is #2 for guys who are over 50 dropbacks? That's all quarterbacks, not just rookies. It's Tyler Huntley. I'm telling you, I watched some of these preseason games. This kid can sling it. They can develop quarterbacks there. They developed Tyrod Taylor, did a pretty good job with Joe Flacco, developed Lamar Jackson. This guy's got a future, Dan Hansis.
I hope he does. Maybe he does. And they definitely could use some help behind Lamar Jackson, because, Lamar Jackson with his situation could miss time. And I'll give you some love, Greg. You do study the preseason more than anyone else I know, but the stats in the preseason.
No, but the eye test, our old friend, the eye test.
I got you. Finally, Josh Rosen, the former #10 overall pick a few years back. He really lucked into something here. He was buried in San Francisco, not even playing well. He gets cut by the Niners, stumbles into a job with the Falcons right when A.J. McCarron blows out his knee, has a decent half against the Browns, and now he makes the team, and he's the backup quarterback to the Falcons. So that's pretty good.
Maybe I will be right that Rosen will be better than Josh Allen, but I doubt it.
Oh, weekend vibes coming up next on the broadcast, including Mark Davis's Silver and Black Paradise. You got to see this to believe it, everybody. Weekend vibes time. Greg, get us going.
My weekend vibe is preparation. Like, if there is anything in your life that you would like to do over the next 22 weeks on a Sunday, do it right now. You can't wait any longer. I'm going on a little trip with the kids, maybe taking them to the zoo, going in a hotel pool. We're not like Kansas. We don't have a pool in the backyard with, like a waterfall and stuff. We're not old Mr. Moneybags around here. But whatever it is you want to do, you're going to be locked into your house for the next 22 Sundays. Now is the time.
I have a tasteful grotto. Yeah, I'm with you on that, by the way, and especially for us with our jobs. But everybody, I want all the families to understand that Sundays are sacred for maybe religion, but also football. In other news, speaking of homes, forget about my house. About Mark Davis's house, the owner of the Raiders. This was a big story this week. That's the design on his new mansion. I think it's valued at about $14 million, and it's designed to mimic the look of the Raiders facility and new stadium in Vegas, Allegiant Stadium. Think about that. Think about, Greg, loving something so much, and if you are a Davis, the thing that you love is the Raiders, that you make it the shape of your actual home, your mansion. Like, I would like to make my dream home just like shaped like a giant burrito. Like, that would be great. Like, something that I just love. What about you? Anything? How would you shape your
Al
$14 million
Pastor,
mansion?
like the sour cream in there? I mean, I hadn't seen that picture until just now. That is ridiculous. Tell you what, I feel like you're getting away from work when you go home. That does not seem inviting. That seems like an alien video game from like 1986 or something.
Do you know who Mark Davis's father was? There is no getting away from work. Work is home. Home is work. Raiders is life.
That like house is like the equivalent of Zubaz pants, like wearing Zubaz pants to dinner. So it somehow makes sense.
Thank you, everybody, for watching the broadcast, and get ready. Football's coming next week, and get well soon. Mark Sessler, we'll see you soon. Till next week.